This is the Fantasy Football Game Plan, where we talk about fantasy football and the NFL.
Hey, Coach Powell, what's going on?
Not much. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I have a couple numbers I want to throw at you and see what your reaction is. How are these numbers connected? 40 and 24.
I don't know. I'm lost.
Okay, it pertains to the NFL.
Okay.
40 players have come up with COVID in the last 24 hours.
Tyler Higbee being one of those. So hope you didn't start him this week because Monday night tonight he's supposed to be playing on the bench. That's crazy. So 40 in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Not including the people that like Williams or who's the other guy from the Chargers? The good receiver.
Allen.
Yeah.
And all those guys are included.
Oh, those guys are included too.
Yeah. 40 guys. So waiver wire picks are super important this year, more than any other year, I would say, maybe even more than last year, because so many of these guys are getting sick on the weekends. So, it's an extensive list that we have this week because, there's no more buys. The bye weeks are over, but you still need to know what's going on all around the league, because at any given moment, the closer you get to the weekend, the more likely it is that somebody on your team is going to come up with COVID or come down with COVID, however you want to put it, at game time.
Yeah. I guess it's like the submuscle of a muscle. It's just like the buy of the buy. Like, oh, are you on a bye week? Oh, do you have COVID? We already talked about this at the beginning of the year. Like, people that are not vaccinated, stay away from them. And
people aren't being careful, and that's a lot of players in 24-hour period. 40 guys, they know they have to play on Sunday. So, heads up, everybody. Keep your eyes peeled to waiver picks, because you never know when you're going to need them. And we got a long list today. Before we start, though, how'd you do this weekend? Are you in the playoffs? Do you know yet what's happening?
Yeah, I won this week, so we still have one more week before our playoffs start. So it looks like I'm still in second place, and just got to wait till next week to see if I make the hump to the first place or not. So.
Okay, interesting. We used a different method in my league, so we decided to have an extra playoff round. More guys made it in, so there's 6 teams that are out, and there's 6 teams that are in. 2 teams are on a bye. I also finished second in my league, so I'm on a bye this week, which is a really weird feeling. I'm happy about it because I don't have to win to stay in, but I'm just going to be watching this week going, oh, please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt.
Yeah. That's another thing too. It's not only the COVID, is at the end of the season, the injuries kind of like, ding up a little bit more too, right? So
yeah,
people with sore feet or sore shoulders or something, like if they get hit too much. And another thing too is just the rest, right? If you're a team that that you're kind of like a good spot into the playoffs, you might be sitting down fourth quarter like Patrick Mahomes did this week after killing the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And then you're stuck there with like, shoot, like I could have had 35 points with that guy, but now you're just sitting at a high score. But, any week is different, right? So like you need all the points you can get. So it's either you're banged up and you're sitting down because they need you, or you're just that damn good that they just need you and they just want you not to get hurt.
Well, and it's so funny with Mahomes, right? Because you've been waiting all season for him to score some points. And so here, finally, towards the end of the season, they're starting to get their act together, and they put him on the bench. So he didn't really do that much for you in your fantasy game.
Right, because they're like, but he wasn't even taking runs. Like he dumped the ball off before he made it across the line of scrimmage. So someone said to him, "Don't be like the running back,
Yeah.
like Clyde Executor and get injured because you're trying to die for a first down. Just throw the ball away."
Yeah. Well, don't forget, last year he got that big ankle injury running the ball and he missed some time. So he's probably learned from that.
It's not like the fullback Taysom Hill that's running like wishbone plays for New Orleans.
Right. Well, you brought up Taysom Hill. He's on our list again this week. Not that we love him or his style, but he can't really throw. But he's got an injured hand on top of it.
I know, but his injured hand, he goes back. It wasn't even a pump fake. He just put his hand back here. The ball fell out. Loss of 25 yards.
Right. I don't know what to say. He still came through fantasy-wise because he had that big running touchdown at the end of the game. He's on our list. He's not our favorite guy. One guy who got hurt was Jackson for Baltimore. So yeah. I don't know how hurt he is, but I think you've got to look at Tyler Huntley if you have Jackson, because he may or may not play. And if he does play, he's not going to be the same player, right? Because the whole thing about him is he's dynamic and he runs around. If he can't really run around, if I'm them, I would rather play the backup Tyler Huntley healthy, because they're the same style of player and they can still run the same style of offense.
Lamar Jackson is the top rusher on the team. So, without that, they're giving more to the running back game too. So maybe that running back game gets a little bit better out of this whole injury. So if you have any of the running backs, maybe you're in luck. Finally.
Yeah, that could be. Also, Jimmy Garoppolo had a good game for San Fran. We had him on the list last week. He came through for you. He's on our list again this week as a guy you might want to think about. They are relevant still, so they're not going to Trey Lance, the backup, until they're knocked out of the playoffs. So Jimmy G is their guy, which is a bit surprising that they're still in it with such a bad record, but so are a lot of teams. And that brings us to Tua. So they're coming off a bye, and it's easy to forget about these guys when they're coming off a bye. But if you had Lamar Jackson and you don't know, maybe you don't want to play Huntley, Tua's a guy, he's been looking pretty good lately. He's on the list this week for waiver pickups for QBs.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Davis Mills from Houston. I don't know what you think about them. They're not a very good team.
I really wasn't watching the Houston-Seattle game. I kind of was hoping that Houston would win just so they'd have a better record. Get 3 and, 10. But
yeah,
that was just a selfish sort of wish. But Seattle did have long plays finally with Tyler Lockett, becoming the receiver he should be. It was good. It was an interesting game, but the defense for Houston was still stopping Seattle for a good portion of the game. So
yeah,
I don't know. Mills is okay, sure, if you need somebody, but like you say, no more buys. So, but what I can answer is that if somebody goes down with COVID, Mills looks like a pretty straight guy. But Houston's also in Texas, so that's crazier because those probably people are not vaccinated. I don't know.
That's COVID. That's COVID country, my friend.
Yeah, but Houston, I think, is more progressive than most of the other part of the Star State. So maybe that's the reason why their numbers are a little bit lower.
Okay. If you could have any running back, if you're the number one waiver pickup and you need a running back, who would you go for this week as your top pick? Rashaad Penny went crazy yesterday. 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. They've been waiting for him all year to get healthy and take over that starting spot. And he did it, and he got through the game without getting injured. So I think everybody's going to be desperate to try to get him this week off of waivers. What do you think?
I was going to say Williams from Denver seemed to do all right. But obviously he's been picked up probably at the beginning of the year, and you're probably right. Rashaad Penny is probably still sitting on the waiver wire. So Rashaad Penny making it in. Where's Homer? What happened to Homer?
1 carry. Penny's really well rested. He looks explosive. He's just running by people. So not that Royce Freeman in Houston is a great running back, but all the other guys are injured or have COVID on that team. So he got 7 targets. He had 17 touches, 61 yards, and all the other guys are down. You know, Rex Burkhead's injured. I don't want to go through the whole list. It's David Johnson. There's a bunch of guys, but they're just, nobody's doing anything there.
There are people on this waiver wire week that are there because they had maybe a good week this week, and potentially the depth chart looks a little skinny and thin.
Yeah.
You know, but if you stack your bench accordingly, you could probably be sitting on some gems, Herbert or anyone, you know.
Well, if you hung on to DeErnst Johnson from Cleveland, that'd be an example of what you're talking about. You know, because he had those great weeks when Hunt was injured earlier in the year, and guess what? Hunt is injured again.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like if you had people that you could stash on your bench, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I was stashing tight ends, right? I was just like keeping them because I knew that they were like, I kind of wanted just to keep the middle class pool a little bit less saturated, you know, like just making sure that other people didn't get them because I didn't need them on my bench, but I didn't need them in my roster. I was just kind of like holding them so other people could get them. So this is a clear point in case is that, you know, you need to make sure to organize your, you know, strategically. And if you can see these guys and pick them up, because someone might have dropped them. But yeah, definitely DeErnst Johnson is going to get carries and he's going to prove himself. He's an angry runner.
I want to ask you, because I know you watched the Detroit games. Were you as surprised as I was that Craig Reynolds had such a great game for Detroit?
He could be a solid RB3 at some point, but he needs to learn how to hold on to the football before giving him any credit.
So do you like Williams more or Reynolds more going forward?
Neither.
Okay, fair enough. Well, you probably don't like Ty Johnson from the Jets either, but he's out there for 73% of their snaps, which is a huge opportunity for him. All the other running backs on that team are going down regularly. So if you've got, you know, one of the Dallas running backs or somebody like that who you're used to depending on, and you don't know this week if they're going to be, you know, healthy enough to play, or they split time in that backfield. Anybody else you want to throw in?
Not in the running back position, no.
Okay. Abdullah, we had him on the list last week. He didn't do much because they're losing. And I think Carolina's just going to keep losing. So I don't think Amir Abdullah, I mean, he's probably available, but he's just not doing that well, right?
Well, as I mentioned, a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback. Cam Newton went down yesterday, I think, too. So they threw in the backup who was liking, you know, we'll be talking about wide receivers now, I guess, moving into it, but he was liking Robbie Anderson more than Moore. So like Robbie Anderson, I know he hasn't done much this year. He was the hot player last year.
Yeah.
When they had Bridgewater as their quarterback, because it seems like he's a speedy guy that gets open.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think definitely if there was somebody on that roster to take a look at, if Newton isn't playing, because Cam likes Moore, but if their backup guy, I don't know what his name is, if he's out there, he seems to be throwing the ball more to the receivers he's more comfortable in throwing the ball to, which is usually like the second or like wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3.
Yeah, they started with Newton and they took him out, put the other guy, PJ, whatever his name is, in there. Then they took him out, put Cam back in. I think the wide receiver that you were talking about, he's injured. And that's why Anderson started to get the ball, in addition to all the other reasons that you listed. Is it DJ Moore? Yeah, I think he's hurt. So I think Anderson's a good suggestion. Robbie Anderson got 12 targets.
I think he's also injured too late in the game, but I haven't put my ear on the ground on that one yet. So
okay,
but you're right. DJ Moore is injured.
So some other names. Alan Lazard had a huge game against Chicago. And I think it's because Cobb's injured, right? Cobb's got a core muscles thing and he's having surgery and he's on IR. So I guess Lazard is the new favorite second banana to Adams there.
Yeah. Wasn't last week we also talked about somebody else with like a 3-prong name on that team that was supposed to be the next
MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but he fell out of favor and apparently Lazard was the go-to guy.
So what's next week?
Well, Yeah, I mean, there's another name when we get to tight ends, but with Green Bay. But I'm gonna try to stay on track here because we're working our way through the receivers.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, what I'm saying, Sean, is that I'm just wondering, like, is Lazard like, the flavor of the week, and then next week the ball gets somewhere else, So like,
yeah,
really, Rodgers has a lot of great, competent receivers out there that can all catch the ball, and whoever is open, he's targeting them and giving them. So it's kind of like, it's hard. Like if you don't have Devontae Adams, who is going to get a ton of yards after reception and just looks, you might be skeptical putting in somebody from Green Bay because it could get you 2 points, or they could get you, 17.
Yeah, well,
that's what I'm getting at with this. It's just that like Rodgers is just that great of a quarterback that he doesn't really need to rely so much on like wide receiver one. He can just toss the ball to anybody with precision.
Yeah,
if you have hands, you should be able to catch those footballs.
Yeah, you're right. And I think with some of these guys, you bring up a really interesting thing that I think is worth looking at. Do we like going with a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown from Detroit, who's sort of more of a featured guy on a bad offense? There's Nico Collins from Houston getting a lot of looks, 10 targets on a bad offense. And we've talked about Detroit, and we've talked about, you brought up about these teams that are just bad, like Jets. You kind of want to stay away from them altogether. But then we've got situations where we've got good teams. And of course, Devontae Adams isn't going to be on the waiver wire. But do you want a smaller piece of a great offense and roll with that? Or do you want a bigger piece of a crap team and roll with that? What's better, do you think?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I guess that goes into the pickle jar. But I do like Nico Collins as a wide receiver to be picked up this week for sure.
Okay, you like him. Okay, that's interesting.
Well, he just had a lot of targets last week. He was catching everything. Anything that needed to get done, Mills was throwing to him. So if you have a receiver that's out, this guy could probably get you that where you need to make you into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or just to like flex to whatever, right? Like, or
right.
If you're in a playoff, you might win your week with that guy.
Yep. Or COVID. COVID can jump up and get any of us at any time with our fantasy rosters. So just a couple more quick names to throw out there, and then I want to ask you about something. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, we talked about him last week. He's on our list quite often. They don't have a lot of receivers over in Cleveland. So I think there's another guy. He's their main receiver on not a really good passing offense, but he's something to consider. I wanted to know, who do you like? This is a good team, and it's Buffalo, and there's two guys that are available on a lot of waiver wires, and they're sort of equal in a way. But who do you like better between Gabriel Davis from Buffalo or Cole Beasley from Buffalo?
Well, Beasley has a higher chance of catching COVID.
Right, not vaccinated. So your answer is Gabriel Davis, who scored this weekend?
Yes.
Right, and Emmanuel Sanders is hurt, and it seems like Gabriel Davis is getting his role, which is intermediate to longer shots, whereas Cole Beasley is sort of the short range receiver, right? He's the slot guy.
He's playing the same position he played in Dallas, and you can kind of like put him into the same class as Hunter Renfrow as being that slot type of lot of targets, great for PPR.
Okay, I think that covers receivers, unless there's something else that you wanted to throw in.
I believe the guy from Washington, Humphreys, was someone that we should be just mentioning.
Okay, that's a good suggestion because of the injury to scary Terry McLaurin. Heineke threw him into danger, and the guy chopped his legs out from under him. He landed on his head. I mean, maybe he'll be back, but once he was out of the game, Humphreys, I noticed. I mean, Mims had that crazy great catch, but that was one play. The consistent guy, you're right. Heineke was looking for Humphreys.
Heineke was looking for a prayer. Holy cow, what a crap performance that was.
Yeah, and somehow they still almost tied the game up late in the game, which was hard to believe.
Well, when you're just too cocky, you just forget that you have to play football.
Right. They did guarantee a
We
win.
won. Our defense is amazing. Our defense is amazing. They could stop anything. Let's just eat a picnic on the sideline here.
Yeah.
The other team kind of like picks away at you.
Well, and they could. Yeah, as good as Dallas's defense was, they couldn't stop Dak Prescott from throwing pick sixes. So that was a big factor in the game. So, I mean, we're almost through this. We're at the tight ends now. And looking at the NFL, you were alluding to the tight ends earlier and what a situation is. I mean, there's if you don't have Kelsey's not clearly the top guy anymore. Kittle, when healthy, which is rare, seems to be a very dominant guy, and Andrews is quite dominant. And then the rest of the league is a crapshoot. That's the way I'm seeing it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if people listen to you at the beginning of the year and picked up Dawson Knox, I think they really did score on that key tip, because there's really nothing out there, and it's like this every year. I always say if your tight end can give you 10 points, you should be happy. But that's a huge stretch. In a PPR league, that's a huge stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, tight ends are really tough. In our league, the guys that went all in on tight ends didn't make the playoffs. They're both in my division. One guy paid big for Kelsey. He also paid big for Kittle. He took a gamble, and then he had to trade Kittle away. So the guy who had Kittle, well, Kittle was out most of the year. So those two guys, I mean, I don't want to run into a team with a good tight end in the playoffs, because that's the one spot where most people don't have a player. But both the guys that invested big on tight ends didn't make the playoffs. And I think that's something in our offseason when we're talking about drafting. I think we're going to revisit this discussion later, because if you'll remember, Kelsey was a first-round pick in a lot of leagues, and he is not a difference maker this season at all.
Was it in one of the mock drafts where I was like, there's no way I'm picking Kelsey as in the top 10? I think I mentioned something about that.
You said that. And so, like, I'll just say you were right. I was on the other side of it. I thought that Kelsey was going to be huge this season and a huge difference maker, because, again, nobody has a tight end. But instead, Kelsey sort of turned out to be one of the nobodies.
There's a couple I guess we could talk about. One you want to talk about before was the Green Bay dude.
Oh yeah, Josiah DeGuara. So he's taken over for the other tight end who's out for the season. I noticed Rodgers looks to him quite a bit.
Rodgers likes his tight end
yeah.
in the end zone, the red zone. So
yeah, the other tight end there also.
It's his fifth look. He's like, oh, all four receivers are, like, he's just phenomenal. He'll drop it. So good pickup if you need a tight end and your tight end is not doing anything. Noah Fat, he did all right, I guess.
I think he's hurt again, though.
Mm.
Yeah, he was doing well.
He did get injured. He did get injured with thigh. Stopped him because he's such a monster. He's like 6'8". That like a little small guy came in and hit him just low.
So we always talk about Tyler Conklin, so we'll put him on the list. We don't need to talk about him anymore. We've already listed his attributes. But a new name is Brevin Jordan from Houston. He's been catching a touchdown every other game since they put him in the starting lineup. Out of 6 starts, he's got 3 touchdowns. He seems to alternate weeks, but it's such a crapshoot if your main tight end gets sick. I've been playing Foster Moreau because Gesicki was on a bye. He's not substituting for Waller. He got me 1.6 points. It was horrible. I'm glad Gesicki's back.
I've been playing Tyler Conklin for the last 5 weeks. He's been doing okay. But this week when I was watching, I think it was Thursday night when they played.
Yeah.
I was like, 83 catches the ball. I'm like, that doesn't look like Conklin. Like, why is his arms like brown black? And then like I was like, oh, those are his tattoos.
But he's number 83, so just look at that.
He's 83, yeah. And his numbers are usually in yellow.
Right. So the defenses to look at this week, we got Tennessee at Pittsburgh. We've got Minnesota at Chicago. you mentioned a couple weeks ago that you liked Miami. Guess who they're playing?
Patriots.
Jets. Jets.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a good one. Hopefully they're nice and rested and they don't come off like a slump off their late bye week, and be good to see.
Yep. Okay, so we're done. Thanks for this. And we'll chat next week.
I'm interested in watching tonight's game, and then Saturday game's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one, because if you're sleeping and you don't know about it, you could be starting a bench that.
Yeah. Set your alarm Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And tonight's game that you brought up has huge first place implications. The Rams and the Cardinals, they're battling for first place overall in the NFC. So that would be only one team from each conference gets a bye in the playoffs this year. And I'd say right now it's between Tampa, Green Bay, and these two teams that are playing tonight, Arizona and the Rams.
Who's going to the Super Bowl this year?
It's too hard to know yet, but it's, I think in the NFC, I'm going with either Green Bay or Tampa.
Okay, and then who are they playing against?
In the AFC, honestly, you could just throw any team in there. I'm liking New England right now. Buffalo's not looking good, so I'm liking New England. Cincinnati?
Yeah, I'm saying Green Bay, Indianapolis.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
Okay.
So you think Green Bay or
Tampa?
Or Tampa against New England or Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't think I'm going with two. I'm only going with one. I think
Okay, if I have to narrow it down, I'll just pick. I don't want to be a homer, so instead of picking Tampa, I'll pick Green Bay because I figured they got to get lucky sometime. Whoever has the home field NFC advantage is going to get it. I think it's going to be Green Bay. So I'll agree with you. It'll be Green Bay against New England. Those are my picks.
It'll be a good Super Bowl, but it's funny how we both think that Green Bay can make it. So.
Well, I really hope that it's Tampa against New England. That's what I really hope for. That would be the best that'd be just a lot of drama, a lot of fun. So
where's Super Bowl this year? Where are they playing? Vegas?
I don't know.
Huh. I don't know.
Well, we'll find that out for next week.
Cool. All right. Enjoy your night.
Yep. You too. Thanks, man. Enjoy the game.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for watching the Fantasy Football Game Plan podcast. Need coaching on your lineup? Drop us a line and we'll discuss your dilemma.